Hello everyone, we are Robotics for All. We are a 501c3 nonprofit organization. We are here to solve the two NGN goals of 4, which is to eliminate poverty, and 7, which is education access. My name is Maximilian Getz, I'm the president and founder of this organization.
And my name is Garrett Tiang, and I'm the vice president of the organization. So Robotics for All's mission is to strive to educate students at schools with 50% or more low-income student population in STEM and robotics.
And our vision is Robotics for All aims to have classes in every low-income community across the United States of America. And in order to do this, we are going to create a platform that matches students with schools, and that therefore they can teach, and we'll provide the equipment, we're going to provide the curriculum, we're going to make it easier for them to teach. I'm just going to click here. Okay, so a little bit about it. I founded this organization in April 2017, and this was after I first volunteered at Citizens, which is a for-profit organization, where I taught students Legos there. And then I volunteered at Reading Partners, where I taught students in low-income communities reading. And this changed from the for-profit organization where I volunteered at to the nonprofit organization that I volunteered at really made a big impact on me, because I really felt that the students I was teaching were really appreciative of my work. So, and I knew that robotics is extremely important in today's career, so that's why I decided to found Robotics for All. I recruited Garrett as well, so that's how this all started. So I count that as our official founding date, since that's when I came up with the idea, when I wrote an email to her first school. But we taught our first class in November 2017, and we incorporated as a 501c3 nonprofit organization last October. So, like I said, we offer free robotics classes to students in underserved communities, and we define those at schools with over 50% of students coming from low-income families. That's how we define that. And at the same time, we're also providing opportunities to high schoolers to give back and serve in their communities. Firstly, they can come and volunteer as a teacher, and then they can also serve as board members on our board of directors. And we consider this to be a very unique opportunity to serve on the board of directors of an organization. This is 2 ways we provide high schoolers a way to serve an organization. Currently, we have taught 141 students over the 2 years that we've been in operation, and we want to make this number higher. Right now, what's limiting us is the funding. So for our last class, we had 59 students sign up. We were only able to enroll 16 because of a lack of resources. We really need more funding so that we could do this. And Garrett and I, if we win this competition today, we're going to be donating 100% of the money into this organization. So it will help us increase the number of students that we can teach. And currently we have 26 volunteers, the majority of which are high schoolers, and we have 4 locations, 2 in Mountain View, one of which is where we first started teaching, 1 in Sunnyvale, and 1 in Framingham. And I recently visited the Framingham School in Framingham, Massachusetts. I recently visited just last Wednesday near Boston, and it was really nice to see that my organization or our organization that we founded was really making an impact 3,000 miles away. That was really impactful for me, and it really showed that our model does work. So the problem, like I said, is the achievement gap. There's currently a lack of STEM enrichment in schools that have less money, schools that are underserved. And the problem is that STEM enrichment is extremely beneficial for future careers. It's extremely necessary. It really gives them the skills, and that has been proven by research. There have been studies that have shown that STEM enrichment is really beneficial. And according to the U.S. Census Bureau, there are 15 million students from families in poverty. So these students are being put at an educational disadvantage compared to schools in more affluent communities, because they're being prevented to have access to this. And that's just because they didn't win the family lottery, the parent lottery.
So like Max was talking about, Robotics for All has a few advantages and disadvantages. So some of the advantages is that we're extremely sustainable. Once we have the equipment purchased for a given class, we do not require any extra money to upkeep the class and continue operations. So that way we have a very low operating cost. Also, because it's completely volunteer run, we don't have to worry about paying for full-time employees. Our model is also extremely scalable because we designed a standardized curriculum that's able to be used at any given location, which allows us to expand to schools as fast as we have funding for. We also use Volunteer Match to help us match volunteers to nearby schools, so it's easier for them to come teach classes. For Robotics World, there's a lot of opportunities available because many schools would benefit from this free after-school program, and there's many volunteers who wish to volunteer at a program such as this. There are some risks associated with Robotics World as a model, and that comes from our donor dependency. Because we don't require any cost from schools or the parents of the students, we require donations and grants to expand our classes. And therefore, in the event of an economic recession or just lack of people having incentives to donate to our company, we will no longer be able to expand. However, because we are sustainable, we will be able to continue our current operations without any further cash injection. Also, another concern which has been raised in the past is that what happens when our volunteers graduate. And I know me and Max, we want to continue this organization far past our graduation from high school. But there's always new high schoolers who wish to volunteer in a STEM opportunity like this. And that's why we think when our current volunteers graduate, we're still going to have plenty of volunteers to come help our organization. So our prototype is our curriculum and our teaching equipment as well as our web platform. So we have 3 different levels of curriculum that we teach. So we start from an intro curriculum that talks about how to build and the theory behind robotics. And then our second level curriculum is focusing on programming and more the theoretical aspects.
Organization at that school, and so this shows that schools actually prefer us because we're not only cost free, but they also told us that our curriculum is more hands-on, so they prefer both us for the budgeting purposes and what we actually teach. So this really shows that the for-profit organization competition is really not there for us. Some of our key metrics, something got deleted there, okay, but some of our key metrics, we have a student and volunteer survey that we give out at the end of each session, and we ask students and volunteers to rank some statements, whether they agree or disagree on it, and a 5 is strongly agree. So if we have an average of 4 or above, which is agree or above, we can prove that we're actually making an impact in these kids' lives. They're actually learning a lot from our program, and for the volunteers' perspective, they're gaining self-confidence through teaching, and that they're really feeling a sense of self-worth. They're really feeling satisfaction in teaching. I think that's the biggest drive for Garrett as well, both of us. That's why we spend so much time on this, because it's really such a satisfying feeling. And then we also want to try to assess students before and after classes. So if we give them a survey at the start of class, we can see how they've improved throughout the whole session. And another thing we do is we assess the number of locations, students, and volunteers that we have, because obviously the more students that we're teaching, the more our mission is being pursued, the more students are being taught. And another way we address this is the returning students, and it's supposed to say volunteers in schools, where it got blacked out, but that's okay. If students return, that shows that they really thought our class was impactful. If volunteers return, that shows that they really had a great experience, and almost 90% of our volunteers return, even going beyond that minimum community service hour in their requirement in their high school. So it shows that they do this beyond for the community service hours. They do it because they really like it. And so far, all of the schools that we've taught at have renewed our classes the next year. There's not one school that we have taught at for one session they said, no, you're not coming back. They've always wanted us to continue, and we plan on continuing all our classes at the schools that we're at, in addition to expanding to new ones. And another thing we do is funding raised, and I guess that correlates directly with number of locations, because that's honestly the limiting factor to our number of locations is our funding. The more funding we can have, the more locations we have. And the volunteers and schools, they're plentifully available. So it's the funding that we need, and if we raise more funding, we consider ourselves to be successful. And also parent and student feedback, we take that very seriously, because we also want to make sure that the school's benefiting off of it, and that the teachers are seeing an impact in the students, and the parents are really happy that their kids are doing this.
So the Robotics for All's management team is made up of a board of directors of high school volunteers. You can see them pictured over here. And we think that perspective of high schoolers is actually very important, because they bring in new ideas that me and Max ourselves might not have even thought of. And we thought that was a very good decision for the company. But we have a few people that we think would be ideal board members to be on the Robotics for All team. So people like Massimo Bonzi, who's the founder of Arduino, which is a platform for educating students about computer science and circuits. Salman Khan, which I'm sure you all know, he revolutionized education through technology, which is what we're trying to do essentially as well. So having him on the team would be incredible. And Janet Napolitano, who is the president of the UC system, and she can bring that experience of law and education to our company. We also think forming an advisory committee made of adults that's focus is fundraising will be very beneficial to our company because it will allow us to focus on running the company and improving our teaching, and we don't have to worry about getting funding for new locations. We also think getting the mentorship from education venture specialists will be extremely valuable for us because our company is focused around education, and getting their opinion will be very valuable. We have a few donors that we think would be extremely ideal to donate to Robotics for All, such as the Chan Zuckerberg Initiative, which focuses on teaching science through technology, and the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, which focuses on bettering education outcomes for students, especially low-income students, and of course the Silicon Valley Community Foundation, which we think their goal is to help the Silicon Valley and places where they're not getting as much help as people might think, and that's also what we're trying to do. So we think these three initiatives really align with what Robotics for All's message is.
Around the country, Robotics for All is impacting students who would not have otherwise had the chance to take a robotics class, and we're also impacting volunteers who are given the opportunity to serve in their community and share their passions. Our goal is to make Robotics for All in every low-income community across the country, giving more students and more volunteers the opportunity to serve it. It was a real pleasure for both of us to be here today. Thank you so much for your time, and now open to any questions if you have any.
Thank you, guys.
So I have a question about the metrics. So when you ask the student, so what are you hoping that they will learn? So what are some of the metrics that you're using in terms of?
Obviously, you won't learn all the skills you need for a career in our 7-week class. So what we're really trying to do is, are we really making them, one of our questions is, are you more likely to take another robotics class after this? So that's one of our questions. Or do you feel like you're more interested in the STEM field? So basically, we're trying to just spark an interest for them. So when they go to high school or they go to middle school, robotics is not so foreign to them. They're like, oh, I've done that before, and they're less afraid to do that. So that's our goal. And for volunteers, it's self-confidence and whether they thought it was a great experience for them, if they got self-satisfaction in volunteering. That's kind of the things we measure. And Garrett, do you want to elaborate on that?
Yeah. Also, it's getting that leadership experience. I think dealing with kids is something that I think more high schoolers should do because you can learn not just a lot about how to handle kids, but also how to handle yourself and how you respond to possibly stressful or difficult situations where the answer isn't always clear. And I think that's extremely valuable experience. It's one of the greatest things that I've gotten from this company so far, is that learning how to deal with kids has taught me how to deal with myself in a lot of ways.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Yes, I didn't catch, I think you mentioned the funding needs to get to where you need to be, but what is the target for how many schools you're going to get to over the next year, 3 years?
Right. So our plan, so this is just the capital needed to expand to one school, which is about $1,700, but our goal is to get about $32,000, and if we can raise that much money, then consistently over the next 3 years, we'll be able to expand to 3 new schools each semester. So that's about 6 a year. And that's what we've done in the past, and it's been a pace and a model that's worked for us very well. So that would be our goal, yes, $32,000 over the next 3 years.
And also to add on that, that's currently a pace that we're comfortable with right now because that's currently how much funding we get. But obviously, if we had a lot more funding, we would love to expand this faster. That's just currently the rate at considering how much funding we're getting each semester. That's currently only what we can do with the funding that we have. But we'd love to make that number higher. If we got more funding, we'd definitely expand to more schools. Yep.
I find it really to be not only a great concept, but you're actually scaling this, and it's real. So the question is, how will you sustain it when you guys go off to college?
Yeah. Go ahead.
Okay, this is the question we've also been asking ourselves. So basically, we're going to stay in this organization, and what we've been thinking, we're going to recruit a director of Silicon Valley, a director of Greater Boston area, and they're effectively going to be doing the educational management of volunteers that we're doing. So they're going to be communicating with schools, recruiting the volunteers, and we're still going to stay on as board of directors, and we're still going to guide the company. Garrett?
Yeah, I think that's definitely one of the questions we're asked the most, and me and Max definitely still have more to figure out about it, but we have no intention of leaving this company or this idea behind, and we think that there's enough volunteers and there's enough schools who want to keep running our classes that even when we're in college, we should be able to maintain the relationships with the schools that we have now and continue to send volunteers and continue to teach classes.
So, yeah, this is our baby. We're not going to be giving it up when we graduate next year.
One more question. So what about other classes? Like, typically there's so many enrichment classes, and I see that you're getting called back and many schools want it. Have you seen any response, like comparing, like, okay, will I want to take this versus something else, and what has been your response to that?
Well, we currently haven't seen anything like that because mainly the way after-school programs work at usually elementary schools, there's like a bunch of after-school programs there, and it's usually something like an art program falls on the same day. So it's nothing like close to us. It's like if someone wants to take a robotics class, to be taking us. And I explained that example of the last school where we kicked out a for-profit organization, and there really isn't any other organization that's doing this for free. There isn't any nonprofit that specializes in this. So did I answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Yeah.
Your capital prices, are those retail?
Yes, those are retail.
Have you thought about access to getting wholesale pricing as a 503?
Well, actually, we haven't really pursued that a lot, but that's definitely going to be a good idea to be able to expand faster. But currently, we've even bought some secondhand kits as well from like eBay and stuff like that because the funding really isn't there to buy at retail all the time. So we've been able to get secondhand kits that are complete, and they've worked for us for now.
But also, in order to buy wholesale, we need to buy a large amount. And currently, since we're only buying 3, that's not a lot to buy wholesale. So that's something we definitely should look into it later on when we expand further. But currently, this number is the maximum amount it costs. When I have some eBay techniques that I use to make this number. It's usually around $1,400 when I'm strategic with my bidding on eBay. But wholesale is definitely something we want to look into. We've also been thinking of maybe partnering with Lego, so they could give us some things for free.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
maybe HP because they provide our computers.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah.